Hey everybody, this is Kevin and welcome back to the next episode of the DeAgostini kit of the F1 race car. We're going to take a previous build, which is this, and a much previous build, this, and merge the two together. So I'm anxious to start adding to this part here. So we'll get some wheels on and we'll start making it look like a rolling chassis race car. Let's get building. Okay, here you can see the package for stage 15. Looks like we got some brake calipers and other brake components for the left front wheel. And yeah, by the end of this stage, we will have the left front wheel on the chassis. So that's getting exciting. Okay, I got a bunch of little bags of the screws and a little miscellaneous part there. Not sure what that little tie rod or something goes to. And here we got a bunch of pieces in the blister pack. Carefully lift that off. And yeah, so it looks like we got all sorts of colorful parts in this pack. All right, so let me clear the board and we will get to start working on stage 15. Okay, first step we got to do is install this, it's called a barge board, and it is going to set right here between these two supports, right here, upper and lower. And we install those with two CM screws. So I can go ahead and get it pre-started and then line this up in the top support. And it should draw it right into the mounting hole. Okay, let me get the bottom one started as well. I'm actually going to invert the car for this one. You do have to stretch this lower arm down just a little bit for the post to reach the hole in the board. But there we go. We'll cinch that down and we'll go back to the top one and cinch it up as well. Okay, so now we've got the first barge board installed on the left front of the car. Okay, then we got to take our other barge board, which is kind of like an outer panel that covers the first one we installed, and it has a lower piece, but we need to connect these two parts before we attach it to the car. So take that like that, flip it over, and take two MP screws, which are plastic wood threaded screws. And we got to be careful not to strip these because, like I said, they've got the wood screw threads on them. Okay, so once you feel them, stop. Okay, so I'm going to combine this step and the next step. We're going to lay this one underneath and attach it to the previous barge board that we installed. And with two more MP screws, we're going to attach it to that inner board. And perfect alignment, perfect fit. Okay, and we'll get the bottom one in. Okay, just like that. Okay, now we want to attach the front of that bracket that we just installed to these front two screws in the left front wing. You can kind of see how that, let's see if I can get maybe an overhead view. That bracket runs down underneath and up into the side wing here. So we'll just position this. draw that up. And we'll grab the other screw and do the same to the front one. There. And we don't want to strip it, so we'll stop right there. Okay, now that bracket is fully connected to the left front wing and support panels. Okay, this next step is pretty tricky, and I definitely recommend before you start screwing things together and attaching, do some good quality dry fitting first, which I've already done off camera, trying to figure out which way to orientate these two discs and the hub. But you'll notice there's an outer ring of post on one of the brake discs. Another brake disc has an outer ring of holes that those go into, but the inner core, you see 3 holes that make up a triangle. You want to align these facing each other so these outer grooves are facing inward toward each other, and you want to align them in such a way that those 3 triangular inner holes are all in sync with one another, and you can actually see through them. This hole here, and this hole up here. You can kind of see some daylight coming through. So that's the orientation we want these 2 discs, and then you can see when they line up, the outer grooves all match up with the pattern. Okay, then we take our wheel hub, and once again, look for those 3 posts and 3 holes. The 3 posts are going to line up in those 3 holes you see indented in that one disc. And then you have the open holes into those holes that we could see through earlier. So we're going to take one of our SP screws and screw it in from the wheel hub side into the brake disc side. Just like that. Okay, then now it's held together, we can attach the other 2 screws. But like I said, make sure you do a lot of dry fitting on that to get the right orientation and figure out how those discs go together. Okay, there we have it. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to take those brake discs that we just made and slip it onto the wheel axle there. Now it's a little bit of a loose fit. If you kind of wiggle it around, you'll feel where it will center itself. But for now, we're just going to let it be loose. We're going to take our brake caliper, and you'll notice there's 2 mounting holes on one side with a brake line nipple that goes into the caliper there. Eventually we're going to tie the brake line into that, but first we need to mount this onto the strut. So get your brake discs centered and then slip your caliper over those 2 mounting posts and take a couple CM screws and install the brake caliper. There we go. Now, why they tell you to slip this on, I guess because we're about to put the wheel on, but this is still a loose fit, so not quite sure why that is. We're told to put that on first, but we are. Now it's kind of being cantankerous there. Okay, now I'm going to actually take that off for now so we don't lose it. But I want to rotate the car over and find our brake line and plug it into, take some tweezers here, and plug it into that fitting right there. There we go. Just kind of pinch it and push down. There. Let's see if you can see that. Okay, so we got the brake line on. And we'll attempt to put this brake disc back on without losing it or falling off. Okay, so there it is, temporarily mounted. Okay, I just noticed something. I removed the brake discs. I skipped a step accidentally where you're supposed to put in this retainer ring across the brake caliper. I'm actually going to remove the caliper just to make this easier to install. So let me remove these two screws. I don't want to remove the brake line off the fitting just because it was a tight fit. I don't want to lose that tightness in it, but let me drop that screw out. You're supposed to run this retainer ring through these outer holes here and then align them with, let me see if I can bring this up into view. There's some holes on the inside of the caliper that you're to run that metal rod through on each side. And I can see this being a little finicky, so let me see if I can align this. Let me see if maybe I can take a knife to help maybe push that over. There we go. Okay, now it goes all the way through and it pops out the other side. That was, oops, sorry, a little finicky job there, but now you see those two metal pins extruding out the back side of the caliper there. Okay, so now that we got that in, let's replace our brake discs. I'm not sure that's going to help us at all as far as keeping the disc on the axle, but it can't hurt. So now I'll screw the caliper back in to the wheel hub. No, doesn't seem to do much at all for that brake disc. But that's okay. So the next thing we need to do now is actually take, and this is the fun part, we're going to take our left front wheel, and you want to make sure you've got it facing the right way. And we're going to slip it onto the wheel hub over the brake disc, align everything, and then it feels, you can tell when it's on solid. It makes quality contact. Okay, then we want to take this little black washer here and a PM screw. Let me grab the PM screws are probably one of the larger screws that we've actually had so far during this build. They're short, but they're a little bit larger diameter. Okay, we're going to slip it through this washer. Let me get my larger screwdriver for this operation. Okay, I'm going to run it through the hub of the wheel. See if I can't get the threads to go. That feels a little loose. Let me see if it'll tighten up anymore. Well, everything operates and functions, but I tell you, there's a wobble in that wheel that I'm not too thrilled about. So let me go ahead and take this back off and see if there's something in those brake discs that are not aligning right and creating that slop. Okay, off camera, I was able to finally get that wheel tightened down, and it was just a simple matter of tightening the lug down tighter. I did remove the screw and add a drop of oil to the tip of it, and then the screw was able to go in deeper and make this much more solid. So the only wobble we have now is just in the steering, but it is much more secure, and it does rotate. So very pleased with it now. I'm good. So the last thing we need to do is take our little hubcap that we built back in stage 3, at the same time we built our left front wheel, and we're just going to pressure fit it into the center of the hub there. And that just attaches just like so. Okay, so now we've got the left front wheel assembly complete. That's the end of stage 15. We'll move on to stage 16 now. Okay, once again, I got a little overeager and thought I was done with stage 15, but not quite yet. There's this little support arm that we're supposed to attach that's going to give better support to the suspension arms. But what we need to do is, and they tell you, remove this screw right here. It's the second one from the bottom, and hopefully this is visible, but I'm going to remove it, and I believe we end up replacing it completely with an SM screw, which is a little bit longer. So I'm going to set that aside, and then we take this little bracket here and we fit this hook. You'll notice one end has a hook on it. That hook hooks into this junction where these two arms come together. And here's what I'm going to do, because this is a little fiddly. I'm going to go ahead and get the screw on the screwdriver ready to go. I'm going to try to get that hook up and into those arms. See, easier said than done. If I can get that end with a hole, there we go. Okay, now let me run the screw through that bracket and into the hole. It might have it. Let's see if it takes. Okay, there's a little slop there. I'm not sure why, but let me tighten it down and see if that slop is still there. No, slop seems to have gone away a little bit. I mean, you can pull on it, but it's not going to move as long as you got that screw on the post down tight. Yeah, okay, that's, I think, as good as we're going to get it. So, okay, now that officially concludes stage 15. Okay, here's stage 15 on the left and stage 16 on the right. Let's get into this one. This is going to be a continuation of the building of the cockpit. If you remember several stages back, we actually did, oh, another little tie rod. Looks familiar. Or little cable tie, I should say. But this is another cockpit panel similar to what we did on the left side. Now, I assume this is going to be for the right side. So let me go ahead and open up this pack here. Expose the parts. Yeah, we got another wheel hub. Basically, we're going to be replicating what we did on the left side here on the right side of the car. So let me clear the board and we'll get these new parts installed. Okay, step one is just pressure fitting this cockpit side panel in. No screws. There is a center post and these two little latches on the front and the rear. This has a little bit of a bend to it, so we're going to use that to bend these two, the front and back, into position. So let me slip the back one in and then put a little bit of flex into it and get that front in, and then the middle should just pressure fit right into place and it's on. So one of the simplest steps in the building of this car. So that takes care of step one. Now we're going to start working on the right front steering section. Okay, we're going to be combining steps 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to attach all these little brackets here on the right side of the car in one segment here. So first thing we want to do is take this little triangular shaped bracket, and it actually has two, believe it or not, it's got two small holes for such a small piece. But we're going to take a couple of CM screws, and these things are tiny, super tiny. So we're going to use our small screwdriver. Let's go ahead and fit it into one of the holes, just so I don't lose it. And then find the holes just left and above the number 12 there on the side panel. There's two little holes there. Okay, we'll get it started in one. And let me swing it around. A little too tight. I don't want to scratch the panel. Okay, and then we'll get another CM screw. And they give you extras, which is good because these little guys can get lost in a hurry. There we go. Okay, so I'll tighten that down. Okay. Again, we got the smaller bracket that's going to mount the same way just down below it at the bottom of the car with a couple CM screws. And you'll notice one side is angled, the other side is square. Angled side goes to the top. Take one more and we'll secure that bottom side. There, okay. Then we've got this little bracket here. It's just a single screw bottom bracket that's going to attach just to the bottom right of the number 12. And I will get the screw started in the hole and then I'll show you exactly where it's placed. There's a single hole there just below the 2 and to the right. Oh. There we go. And we want to get that parallel to the bottom of the car. So here, I'll set it down and just hold it with my finger to keep it from rotating. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, next step is assembling the right front wheel hub. These two parts just simply slide in together and attach from the inside with 2 HM screws. If I could just get it started, which is always the hardest part with these tiny parts. There we go. Okay, got one started. We'll get the other one going. Let me move up a screwdriver size just to make things a little easier. And you definitely want to anchor that down nice and tight because you don't want any front wheel wobble. That'll drive a driver nuts. Okay, still a little bit of slap. Let me continue working on this and we'll come back and attach the cooling duct. Okay, just to tell you off camera, I did have to remove those 2 screws and put a drop of oil on them because they would not go all the way flush down there and tighten it up. It was just getting too resistant, but that drop of oil made all the difference in the world. So just keep that in mind as when you're working with the machine screws, a drop of oil goes a long way to making things fit a lot better. But now we're going to install the cooling duct. Now this is very simple. You just take these 2 pressure fit plastic posts and there's 2 different sizes. Here you can see the one on this side is a little larger diameter than the one on the right. And so are the posts, a little bit different size diameters. And again, they just pressure fit into place, so we'll just get them lined up and press them in. I hope. There we go. Okay, just like that. They don't feel real secure, but they're flush, and like as evident when we installed the left front wheel, the wheel hub, the hub of the wheel itself is going to help tighten that down and flatten it. So, okay, so that wraps up that. Now we're going to install this on the car. Okay, we're going to take our hub assembly and we're going to attach these top two posts into the upper suspension arm and the steering arm. So we're going to set those two up into position, and we're going to hold them into place with a couple KM screws. So let me get those on the screwdriver. And these are machined, so I'm going to dab them in a bit of oil. Let's do the suspension one first, since it'll have less movement to it, just to help hold this up in position. There. Okay, now we'll do the same thing with the steering arm. Okay. Okay, next thing is to attach the brake line, which you see here, to the front of the lower suspension arm. So I'm going to kind of pull that tight. You'll see the brake line. Let's see if I can angle this better for you. And I'm going to attach the zip tie right at the base of the bottom of the hub. So let me go ahead and get that started. Let me just get the cable tie started on the arm, and then I'll feed the brake line into it. And after I get this started, I'll hold it up so you can see it. You'll notice a lot of this work is done by feel because just you lose sight of things. They get so small down there in the shadows. You know what? I guess you can just feed it over later. There, got it started. Now I'll feed it back over the post. There we go. And we'll feed our brake line in like so. And let me cinch this cable tighter. Okay, I'm really cranking on that, trying to get it tight. Okay, there we go. I'm going to take some snippers and just snip off the bottom of that zip tie. Right like that. Okay, now we need to flip the car over and insert an additional KM screw into the lower arm, into that post on the hub. There we go, nice. Okay. So let me flip this back over and you'll see the right front wheel hub assembly complete. That wraps up this stage 16, and that wraps up this video. Well, that wraps up this video for stages 15 and 16. As you can see, we've got the left front wheel mounted as secure as I think it can be. Ideally, I would like to take some slop out of that, but of course this is not a real race car and it's not going to go 250 miles an hour, so we don't have to worry about it being perfect. But it does spin freely. The steering still works. You can see it actuating the wheel hub on the other side that we installed. So we are coming along on the front end of this car. So that wraps up this video. Thanks everybody for watching. We will do steps 17 and 18 in 2 weeks. So thanks for watching everybody. God bless, and we'll see you next time.